I made a video last year complaining about the MLB offseason being a bust. This was around the time when the Harper and Machado waiting games were underway, the baseball news cycle was dry, and the wait for opening day was as difficult as it's ever been. I wanted to take another look at the 2018 MLB offseason now that we've gotten to see how the free agents signed during it have panned out in their first year. I'm not going to talk about the overall contract of multi-year deals because that's unfair to infer based on one season, but I'll just talk about which free agents performed the best in 2019. You know what, let's narrow it down to 5 players. If I miss any or you disagree with my rankings after you've seen my list, let me know down in the comments section. So the 5th best free agent signing in my opinion from the 2018 offseason was Josh Donaldson. The Braves had a hole to fill at third base last offseason, and they certainly filled it by taking a chance on the now 33-year-old former MVP. The 1-year, $23 million deal panned out pretty well for Atlanta. They got another middle of the order bat to solidify a lineup that already had maybe the best player in the National League right now in Ronald Acuna, and maybe the most underrated player in baseball, and in my opinion one of the best hitters of our generation in Freddie Freeman. Donaldson only played in 52 games in 2018 and hit .246. The Braves were justified in being wary of giving him a multi-year contract. Still, they gave him a lot of money believing he could still perform the way he did with Toronto, and I think it's fair to say that Josh did just that. Donaldson played in 155 games in 2019, hit 37 homers and drove in 97 runs. He was 4th in the National League and 7th in all of baseball, drawing 100 walks, and finished 11th in the NL MVP vote. On the defensive side, he played a really good third base. He was tied for 3rd in the National League in fielding percentage, a top 15 player in defensive runs saved, and 4th in all of baseball in defensive wins above replacement. I think Donaldson's 2019 performance will definitely earn him a multi-year deal this offseason. For number 4, I'm gonna have to eat my past words. I gave Patrick Corbin a pretty bad rep in both the offseason video I mentioned earlier and the opening day edition of If Baseball Players Were Honest. I'd be the number 4 or 5 starter on the Mets. I'm basically just a glorified John Neese who had one good season, and I'd probably have a more successful career throwing sliders at a burger joint than at Nationals Park. I'm now going to come out and say I was wrong. Partially. Corbin in 2019 had an incredibly similar year to 2018, but was slightly worse in this year in almost every category. He pitched to a 3.25 ERA, which is pretty good for a third starter, and was 4th in the National League with 238 strikeouts. Even though he was better in 2018, he was still really good in the regular season in 2019. Corbin was pretty good in the playoffs too. His ERA was a bit inflated, but that certainly doesn't tell the entire story. He appeared in 8 games, and if you look at his pitching line for those games, it appears on the surface that he got pretty lit up, but there's more to it than that. He pitched well in the first game of the playoffs, which is a huge deal of course, especially for an underdog playing in LA. They then tried to bring him in relief in game 3, he got lit up for 6 runs. That's a really tough situation to pitch in, and I don't put that much blame on him for it. He was great in the clinching game in St. Louis in the NLCS, he was striking out the world, he looked dominant, he made a few mistakes, that one was good, I'll give him that one. And then the Astros start in the World Series, that was just on him. He did have 4 good relief appearances after his first one, which is more than future Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw could say. And he did get the win in Game 7 of the World Series with 3 shutout innings in relief, so all things considered, he did pretty well. At the end of the day, I think it's fair to say that Patrick Corbin had a pretty solid freshman season in Washington, and I'd probably have a more successful career throwing sliders at a burger joint than at Nationals Park. The 3rd best signing of the 2018 offseason is Charlie Morton. After his career-reviving 2-year expedition to the Fountain of Youth in the southern part of the United States, Charlie Morton signed a 2-year, $30 million contract with the Tampa Bay Rays. They originally signed him expecting him to be a solid number 2 to pitch behind the reigning Cy Young winner Blake Snell, but then had to rely on him to be a definitive ace after Snell went down with an elbow injury. Snell had a dreadful 2019 season compared to the year prior. His ERA was almost 2.5 runs higher than last year. Imagine where the Rays would have ended up without Charlie Morton this year. Not only was he great during the season, he also pitched well in both the wildcard game in Oakland and Game 3 of the ALDS against his former team in Tampa. Morton came up big when they needed it most. And to top off his all-star season, he finished 3rd in the Cy Young vote behind Verlander and Cole. The Rays definitely got more than they bargained for Charlie Morton. The runner-up on this list is the guy who keeps getting older and somehow keeps getting better. His name, Nelson Cruz. You know, the guy that hits golf balls to Jupiter when he's off the field. I'd really like to do a full video on Nelson because it really is incredible he's still doing the things he's doing at age 39, and he showed some of those things off this past year in Minnesota. With easily the best offensive season of any free agent from 2018, Nelson Cruz provided all of the offense you can ask for from a 39-year-old DH. Cruz hit .311, 41 dingers, 108 runs driven in, slugged .639, OPS over 1, 9th in all of baseball and on-base percentage, silver slugger, and he did all of this in 100 120 games. It seems wherever Nelson goes, he continues to perform. He was incredible this year, and more people need to be talking about him. We'll see if he gets any better at age 40. Before we get to the top spot, let's briefly go over some honorable mentions who didn't make the list. Wilmer Flores had a surprisingly good first year with the Diamondbacks, albeit a short one, hitting .317 for the season. Justin Wilson for the Mets was really solid for an otherwise heart attack-inducing bullpen, pitching to a 2.54 ERA for a fairly low salary. Daniel Hudson ended up having a really good season after a decent first few months with the Blue Jays, before being traded to the Nationals and helping them win the World Series. Adam Ottavino was absolutely brilliant for the Yankees in 2019 after he signed with them in the offseason. He pitched to an ERA under 2, and he was as phenomenal as usual. Michael Brantley's first season with Houston was tremendous and was the closest to making it on our main list. Even Bryce Harper, for all the bad rep I give him, had a pretty good first year with the Phillies. Still, in my opinion, not a season worth the contract he was given, but a good season nonetheless. At the end of the day, I'm just content that the two players who decided to wait half the season to sign with the team didn't make this list. So Cruz was outstanding in 2019, but he wasn't the best free agent signing from 2018. That title belongs to DJ LeMahieu. Man oh man, talk about a valuable contract. DJ made $12 million in 2019, and compared to what players with this type of on-field value in today's game make, that really isn't that much. DJ's number one simply because no other free agent was as valuable to their team in 2019. I talked about him a lot in the Yankees video I did recently, so I'll leave a card to that on screen if you want to check it out. Now, this guy did win a batting crown in Colorado in the past, so we knew the dude can hit coming into the season, but still, nobody expected him to produce the way he did this year. The numbers speak for themselves for the 4th place MVP finisher. He hit .327, 26 homers, 102 runs driven in. He was 3rd in all of baseball with 197 hits, and was a top 15 player in wins above replacement. Now, the statistics don't tell the entire tale of the value he brought to the Yankees, though. He was one of the few constants the Yankees had all season, and even with their backs against the wall, down by 2 in Houston in Game 6, in a win-or-go-home situation, he hit a game-tying 2-run homer. It was the definition of clutch. So those were the 5 best free agent signings from the 2018 offseason. I definitely want to do this again next year for the free agents who signed this offseason. If you enjoyed the video, taking 2 seconds to click the like button would show me that you did. We've got some big stuff in the pipeline for the next 2 weeks, so look out for that. I've got a special video planned with an old SRS fan favorite coming on Thanksgiving. I've got another episode of What Happened with a special guest coming soon after that. And we have something really special coming on December 1st that you won't want to miss. Make sure to turn on all notifications so you're notified as soon as all those videos go live. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.